Hey, this is AJ Popoff from Lit, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Unteed, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers, like our Facebook page, or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
AJ Popoff of Lit.
Of Lit, yeah. They have a new album on the horizon. It hasn't been titled yet.
Nope, I got a new single, Yeah.
Yeah, and they also have their My Worst Enemy podcast also available.
Yeah, I wore that album out.
Yeah, so did I. So what else you got for us about
Well,
AJ?
this is our first. This will be our first episode of the new year. So I just want to wish all our listeners Happy New Year, and thanks for listening to us over the last year. And hopefully, we got many more shows coming up for you.
We have all of January full of guests. We have part of February. We'll start working on February here in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, we'll be busy all the way through the springtime and into the summertime. Just kind of put it out there to our listeners. Come fall, I just took on a new coaching gig.
Nice.
So you and I will probably be doing it twice a month instead of once a week or something like that. So this fall, we won't have as many episodes available, but hey, we'll still
keep them going.
We'll still churn them out. So
what's from 2021? What is something either a surprise or something that came out that?
Well, I would have to say my biggest surprise, music-wise, is we interviewed Dave Coots, a former lead singer of Talk Show, which in essence were the former band members of Stone Temple Pilots, or band members of Stone Temple Pilots. But anyway, getting to know him and helping him out to just get a record deal. Yeah, that was a highlight. That was pretty much the highlight for 2021 for me. What about you?
Yeah. Non-podcast wise, something was really cool for me. I'm a Queen fan, and I don't talk about it as much as I probably thought I would on the podcast. But Brian, I think I mentioned it in a couple episodes that I bought his he remastered Back to the Light album. But if anyone's out there that's listening and is a Queen fan or a Brian May fan, and you have not checked out his new Time Traveler video, you need to check it out. It's really cool. It's got he took the song Back to the Light and took the original recording and video with him, or made this like stage this live presence where he worked his new self in, or his current self in, with the old self.
Cool.
And it's got both the images, playing the song and playing the guitar, and they meet up at the end of the video. It's just really cool.
Well, I mean, outside of, the podcast stuff, is that, every week we interview somebody really cool for Nothing Shocking podcast, and I end up buying their stuff, and their stuff is killer. And, I could do this every week and say, hey, I bought this, I bought that. But, what the cool thing about doing this with you is that we get to discover so much cool stuff.
Yeah, I know. The back catalogs are, or the albums that people haven't heard of. That's what gets me in the heart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the deep track.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. But anyway, hey, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to this interview. Good night.
Good night.
AJ, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you my co-host, Jeff Hunted.
AJ, this is going to be fun to talk to you tonight.
What's up, brother?
Hey.
Very good. Well, during the COVID-19 pandemic, you and your brother have been extremely busy. Before we go into the details, did the pandemic give you some downtime to relax and recover?
Man, I'll tell you, it was more than enough time. I think that initially it was, probably like a lot of people, but just the initial shock of what was going on just kind of sent us into like a perpetual drinking and FaceTiming with friends. And I can't believe we went through so much alcohol that first, couple months. I think it was just, as many of our friends, we're going through the same thing, and alcohol sales were definitely at all-time high at the store near us.
Well, very good. Well, Lit recently has released a new track, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah. The band has also been working on new material for a full-length album. Can you talk a little bit more about the writing and recording process of Yeah, Yeah, Yeah?
Well, we my brother and I, both living in Nashville full-time now, we're definitely getting a lot more writing done. Just, it's just a town that's built for it. Mm-hmm. So we were, running into old friends and making new ones, and writing with people that we had never written with, and just kind of trying to get our heads back into, consciously trying to get back to the headspace we were in back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and really trying to sort of rediscover what sort of built the band. And, even though we've kind of evolved over the years, and our sound has, sort of changed throughout each, from record to record, we had kind of taken a little bit of a departure as writers. My brother and I writing a lot of country stuff, originally not for Lit, for, just because we loved it and we just were having a good time writing it, and we were kind of pushing ourselves as writers outside the box. And we ended up recording, a lot of those songs that we had written, and putting out more of a country record. And I think it wasn't until a little later on, at the time we had thought about changing the name of that project and not calling it Lit. And then we got talked into just keeping it Lit. Fast forward, we really wanted to try and take Lit back to that place and just keep our sort of side project, if you will, keep it as that. And so we really, at first, I think Yeah, Yeah, Yeah was probably the first of the batch that we wrote with these two writers that we met here, Eric Paquette and Carlo Colasacco. I always say his name wrong. We just hit it off with those guys, and we just started writing one song after another. They grew up listening to Lit, younger dudes with a lot more of a sort of a new school approach to production, and we really wanted to bring those guys on board and just get some of that fresh element that they were bringing to the table and capture it on all these songs. And yeah, it's more of that, I guess, sort of that balls to the wall, just okay, we're back, it's Lit and it's rocking again. And I think as people start to hear more of this record, they're going to be pretty stoked. I mean, it definitely captures that old school Lit quality, but it's there's something that's just so fresh about it too. And I just love, I mean, I think it's our best record, to be honest with you. I know a lot of people probably say that about their newest records, but we're extremely proud of it. We're excited for people to hear, dive in a little more to some of these tracks.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was just going to ask you about the video for Yeah, Yeah, Yeah. So you guys got got that party rock atmosphere with the jet skis and stuff like that. Can you just talk a little bit about the making of that video?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you watch the video, I mean, it's exactly what you see is what it was. We were just having a blast. It was, we went down to Lake Havasu and Parker, and we got on those. One whole day was just us on those custom chopper Sea-Doos and just having a blast. We showed up. Actually, my wife went with me down there to shoot, to be a part of it. Not in the video, but she really wanted to be there for the filming of it. We showed up, and it's like the girls were already there in these G-string bikinis, and they're all in their early 20s, and we're just we're looking at each other. I look at my wife, and she's she kind of laughed. And after we had a couple beers, and we just started hanging out, and our girls were talking to these models, and I had to tell my wife, I'm like, you're definitely going to have to pick my model, because if I pick my model, I'm never going to hear the end of it. Yeah. So sure enough, she picked the model for me, and it was a blast, man.
Oh, yeah, so that's cool. Awesome. Yeah, that was a big throwback to early Lit, was watching the video and reminded me of the videos you guys made in the 90s.
Yeah, it was kind of inspired by I don't know if you caught a little bit of the Kenny Powers kind of thing with the decked out Sea-Doos and the mullets and whatnot. I went from it kind of took on a little more, we're supposed to be a biker gang, but it definitely took on that very sort of white trash. We thought guys that think they're really cool, but they're really cheesy.
Yeah. Well, as we're talking about the Lit sound, the early 2000s Lit sound, or late 90s, can you kind of talk about the recipe of the Lit sound of that era and the process that you guys went back to that traditional sound? How is that Lit sound? How is its origins? What is the recipe for it?
Man, to be honest with you, I wish I knew. I wish I could pull out the recipe book when we're writing and just go, okay, just need a little dash of this and a dash of that. But I think it's pretty simple. I mean, we're guys, that grew up together from actually, obviously Jeremy and I are brothers, but we met Kevin in junior high, so we literally grew up together. And, going to concerts together, and really were, had a lot of the same influences. Some guys, like Kevin had maybe some bands that he listened to that we didn't so much, but I think it's kind of Orange County didn't really have a scene or a sound until later on, when it sort of had this wave of what sort of became the new Seattle sort of movement with bands, but the OC thing. And the only thing I could really attribute it to is a lot of sunshine, a lot of you got the mountains right there, so snowboarders, and the beach, so surfing, snowboarding, skateboarding, that feel of growing up in Southern California. It's a much different place now, but back in the day, it just I think maybe set sort of a tone with us bands, and just maybe kind of translate it in our songs. But we're heavy guitar riff oriented. Melody is always a big thing for us, so we're grew up listening to stuff, everything from heavy metal to pop music. And I think it's sort of all kind of gets capsulized in our sound. You'll hear pop melodies with at times some borderline metal riffs,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I don't know how to say this the correct way, so I'm just going to say it. When, Lit broke out into the heavy commercial success, we saw and you saw many a copycat band after you guys, and it was more than obvious that they were stealing from the Lit sound and even the Lit look. When that all transpired between you and your brother, how did you guys take that? Did you take it as a compliment, or did you say, "God, there's no originality here. Are you guys a bunch of copycats? Can't you think of something on your own?" How did it work for you guys?
Man, I never really. I don't think I've noticed anything super blatant. I think over the years, and we've run into some bands. I think I know a couple that you might be thinking of, and we've run into them. sort of acknowledge the fact that, man, we really loved your band when you guys came out and paid attention to a lot of. So there was some, where some bands have admitted to, being influenced by our music or the look or the vibe or whatever. I just think, honestly, it's flattering. I think it's cool, that to have that effect on something. We obviously had artists, we grew up listening to that had a similar effect on us.
Sure.
And especially, I think sometimes bands are good at finding their identity and running with it. And then I think other bands maybe kind of look to, I see it more now than ever, really. Bands that don't necessarily know how to find their identity, so they just kind of borrow from other people.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's quicker. Maybe it's quicker and easier. I think we definitely discovered who we were pretty early on.
Oh, so cool. Jeff, you got the next one?
You just talked about the sound and how you've evolved and changed over time. So like your first album, Trippin' the Light, fantastic. When I was listening, I hadn't listened to that in a long time, and I pulled that one out this morning, and I was like, okay, I hear Nirvana, or you're talking about the influences of where you came from. Can you talk about a little bit of where your influences are in your songwriting?
Yeah, I think on Trippin' the Light, fantastic. That's a record that, I have a real hard time really listening through that record, just because of the growing pains I hear in that. From song to song, I think it was a little bit of I don't really want to say an identity crisis, but I think it was definitely a transitioning. Like we were coming off of the stuff before that record was a lot more lighthearted. I think we went through this sort of dark, a little bit darker, heavier. The Seattle scene definitely, I think, had an influence on that. You could hear it when you hear that record, like you said, Nirvana, and even at times maybe Alice in Chains and some of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean that was the recording process on that record was very old school. It was tape. It was before Pro Tools and before any of the editing tools like Auto Tune and all that kind of stuff. So it was just very raw. Very, which I love. I love, the process of recording it. Just literally, you record. It's a much more live feel to recording.
Yeah.
But I think the songs weren't. We really hadn't found completely who we were destined to be yet. So yeah, it's a rough record, but a lot of people dig it, and I think at the time I was when I could put myself back in that headspace back then, and it was one of the best times of our lives, just the way we were a band and together all the time, and the way we recorded that record was a cool process. It's just knowing what I know now, it's like looking at a high school yearbook and you see the pictures of yourself.
Yeah. Well, when you step back and you look at it like A Place in the Sun, and I know that as an inspiring artist or a musician, and you're coming up and you're making that goal to get to the top of the crop, but did that take you back with how successful it hit overnight and became?
It was, pretty crazy because we had been a band already for so many years. It took us probably easily 10 years before we got our first record deal with Malicious Vinyl and put out the first record, EP, and then record. But man, it was, I don't know. It didn't really feel like it happened that fast until it was taken off.
Yeah.
That we weren't even done recording the record yet when someone at the label was playing a demo version of My Own Worst Enemy for a radio station. And they started playing the demo. So we knew that thing had some heat and shit was going to happen with that song. I felt it was a little bit of a surprise. It was shocking. Even though we had confidence in ourselves, it was almost like a surreal, like a really numb feeling for a little while that was actually happening. Like, oh shit, here we are.
Yeah.
We're going to do this for real.
I kind of wanted to ask a question about, comparing and contrasting about your songwriting and recording processes of your early year opposed to now. How do you feel as though your songwriting has matured opposed to 2 albums ago, 3 albums ago?
I think part of what we were trying to do by when I say like rediscover what we were doing years ago, for the sake of the energy and the passion that we had for it back then. It wasn't just, I wouldn't say that we were trying to, rewrite A Place in the Sun or rewrite, the Black Album or Atomic. We just wanted to feel that same energy we were feeling then and capture it in a new record in a new way. I think we've definitely evolved a lot as writers. And one of the things that comes along with that, I think, although you get better and better, I think you do tend to get to, sometimes you're better off not knowing. And the more you learn about writing a song, you tend to maybe overthink things a little more and sometimes spend more time on something than you really need to. So really part of what we were trying to do is get, almost rewind, because one of the hardest things to do is dumb down the process.
Right.
And we were always, a little bit abstract, with our lyrics, although we would, we love taking words and lyrics and twisting them around and getting, creative that way. We were always a little more, a little less autobiographical and literal stories and a little bit more, I don't know, I guess the best word for it is a little bit more abstract. And that's really what alternative music is. And I think getting back to sort of that style of writing where we're just, okay, we're going to say it in an artistic way, however it comes out and however, whatever feels right, and not have to be so smart all the time,
Yeah. Very good. I did see that you and your brother had been working with Desmond Child, doing some songwriting with him. How has that come about?
It was cool, man. I mean, we have a long history with Desmond, and it's been a long, long time. I think we wrote with Desmond one other time, and it was when I was like 16. And our manager at the time, Ruta Sepetys, was working with Desmond, like co-managing Desmond Child, and so her office was in his guest house behind his main house where he was living at the time. And so we were always seeing, we'd go there and just stuff envelopes and do whatever we could do to help and with our career and with our manager. And we would see guys like John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora going over there to write, and like different huge rock stars that were writing with him. We were just always so amazed by that process. Because at the time we had just written as a band. We didn't really do any outside collaborations or anything. And we asked our manager if she could set something up, and we really wanted to write with him. So we actually, that time when we were teenagers, we wrote a song that we forgot about for a lot of years, and ended up, it's in the movie, the Mark Wahlberg movie Rockstar.
Yeah.
And so there's a song called Wasted Generation. It's in that movie probably like 4 or 5 times or something. And it's so crazy just that thing just like resurfaced. But yeah, this time around, it was like, he feels like family to us, because we had seen him so much around the office and just kind of got to know each other. And, but yeah, it was great. He's a different type of human in general. He's a genius, he just, there's something about him just almost like it's music, songwriting royalty. So yeah, it was an honor to get back in a room with him. And, we did a lot of just hanging out and just talking about stuff, but we, wrote a cool song, and it's, we haven't demoed it yet, but it's, I'm interested in seeing how that finishes up. I don't think it's going to be on this record, but.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, he's a monster, man.
Yeah, we had him on the podcast. I think it was last winter, and he said,
"Oh, cool.
Hey, we loved having him on the show." And he goes, "Hey, I love talking about myself."
Yeah, there you have it. Yes, he does.
Go ahead, Jeff. You got the next one.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about, I think recently you guys put out a Live in New York 99 album. I think it has 10 tracks. Were those all recorded in one location or in multiple locations?
Yeah, those were, it was all that one show.
Okay, cool.
Oh, fantastic.
But we had wanted to put out, something live, and that was one that we had, we always had a lot of fans that were, commented on that in one of their favorite shows. So we're like, yeah, let's put that thing out.
Oh, so cool. Well, as the pop culture of the music business has changed, we see fewer and fewer artists releasing and recording full-length physical albums. Many artists are releasing digital singles, at most maybe a physical EP at most. Will Lit stay focused on the album-oriented releases, the tangible album-oriented releases, or could you see the band going more to that direction of digital release, single at a time, or are you guys going to stay true to the album-oriented rock type thing?
Yeah, it's funny because we've had this conversation a lot within the band and with management and label folks. It's something we've tried to do. We keep thinking we're going to do that and just release singles, and I just don't know that we're built for it. I think we've always just been we've always put out full-length records, and always put thought into our album covers, and because it's maybe it's just a little bit of that old school mentality that we're having a hard time detaching from. But I just feel like a lot of our fans want that. They want a full record. A lot of them are those kind of collectors, and we're planning on putting vinyl out with this release immediately for that very reason. I mean, I think vinyl is some of the coolest. I have vinyl sitting in my living room right now. I had it in my house growing up because our dad was in radio, so our whole living room is like vinyl records everywhere. So, cool. So I'm hoping people, there's enough people out there that still like to hold on to something and set it on their mantle, or have it sitting out, because record covers are art. They look cool sitting out. But we're definitely planning on churning around songs a little quicker. I think we're looking at a early 22 release of the full record, but between now and then we'll have hopefully we'll have had 3 songs out. We're gonna release the second single, I think, in February.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we're moving and trying to move right along.
Yeah. So do you have any plans for, I know, touring and everything with COVID got put on hold and stuff like that, but I know some are starting to get back out there, starting to see shows on the horizon. What are your plans for Lit?
Yeah, we've actually done quite a few shows, even
awesome.
Kind of early on in the shutdown. As soon as venues and promoters were putting on shows, we never really completely shut down. We were always available to do stuff. We wanted to get back to work. I mean, I feel like the longer you keep, especially something like a band, it's almost like athletes in a way. It's like if you shut down a football team and they're not playing and they're not practicing, they're going to completely lose everything that built that team.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good. It was good to get out and at least do certain weekend runs and things like that. And but we've experienced so many great shows we were looking forward to that got canceled and rescheduled and then canceled again or rescheduled. So we've done a lot of that. And then obviously it's a little bit unsettling. We have tour, we have stuff coming up. We have a UK tour coming up, and I'm hoping that's nothing gets in the way of that. We have a cruise, like the Monsters of Rock cruise we're supposed to be doing here really soon. I think that might be February actually. So there's definitely we want to be on the road, especially having new music out. We're gonna be getting around as much as we can.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, you kind of touched on the rock musicians as an athlete. I mean, there's always, I don't think I've ever heard that debate, but you always hear about, like, because I'm also an auto racing fan, so you hear about whether a driver is an athlete or not. And what are your thoughts on musicians being athletes? Because you guys, especially you as a lead singer, do a lot of aerial leaps in the air on the stage and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on that?
It's 100. I mean, I'm learning more and more now, how, and I've always known it's been, it's very physical being a singer and just being in a band in general and being on stage. But, I mean, you constantly have to be working on your instrument. You got to be constantly, as much as I like to have a good time and party and we still do, it's a little bit different, when you get a little bit older and smarter and what you can handle and what you can't, even though it doesn't stop us from doing it. But it's, just more working out, paying attention to staying more hydrated and things like that. But it's definitely a lot like an athlete. You got an athlete that doesn't constantly train just start sucking,
Very true. Very true. All right. So I have one last question for you, then we'll leave you alone for the evening. My Own Worst Enemy podcast is a podcast that features stories behind the legendary hit song and the stories behind the band during that time. Can you talk a little bit more about the ideology of creating the podcast and the history of the band and that song in that era? Can you talk a little bit more about the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't our idea. It was something that has come up a couple times in the past, couple years. We were approached by a company that wanted to, initially do more of a documentary, which would have been more visual and a little bit probably like a behind the music type of thing. But the idea of revisiting that particular song is just. It's crazy still to us, but also, a lot of people in the industry, and we ask the question quite a bit, is what is it about that song that, here we are over, a couple decades later, it still gets played on the radio almost as much as it did, when it first came out. And just all the karaoke that's going on with that song, all the cover bands. I mean, you walk down Broadway in Nashville, which is, predominantly a country strip, the Broadway. But you hear all these bands, on any given night, you'll walk by at least 3 venues and they're playing it. So I think it was just the phenomenon of that, why is it stuck around this long? What is it about the song? Is it, cause it's really, it's a pretty short song. There's not much to it. We wrote that song so quickly and organically. And it was just, we always joke about it. It's really, if talking about how we write songs now and we overthink stuff, we would have gone back probably and fixed, probably tried to make it better. Maybe gone and maybe made some of the lyrics rhyme maybe here and there. I mean, it's just such a trip that way that song came about and that it's lasted this long. And I think just wanted to get, the producer of the podcast wanted to interview all different types of people in the industry, whether it's our peers from other bands, radio programmers, college professors, the psychology behind it, just all kinds of different cool, interesting people that they interviewed. And that, I had no idea who was all interviewed for it until I listened to the first 2, they were finished, they got sent to me and I'm like, oh wow, it was just so cool to listen to because I had nothing to do with, the band had nothing to do with the production of it. So it was like getting something brand new, but it was all about us, so it was cool to listen to and go back down memory road and got choked up a couple times. And it was just really cool to hear some of those people, that I haven't really even talked to in years, just talking about the song and the band.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so this is how it's going to go. We have a couple episodes to release before yours. So yours is going to be available, what do you think, Jeff? How many, about 3 or 4 weeks? Maybe?
Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks. This episode, Jeff will have, the editing wizard will have it all edited and ready to go. We'll send it to Ken. Please post it on your socials wherever you can. We'll put it all over our socials. And this has been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, we've enjoyed talking to you tonight.
Likewise, man. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it, man.
All right, hey, take care of yourself. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, likewise.
Right.
See you guys.
Be well. Bye-bye.
Everybody grinds the stone and makes their own mistakes.